Marty Walsh was going to join us in the studio this morning, but apparently the bike lanes were all backed up, Curtis.
Yep. Traffic's a bee. I'm not going to rip him. I miss him so much, Marty. God, I love you. I'm sorry I ever said anything bad about you.
Hey, hello, Mr. Executive, former Mr. Mayor, Mr. Executive Director. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to be missed. It's nice to be loved. Not too long ago, I'd have to call in you guys to calm me down for keeping me up on different things, and it's okay. I take the apologies now. I appreciate that.
Well, is it nice to be back in Boston?
Oh, it's awesome to be back in Boston. It is great. It's I never really fully left. I was home a lot, but I love the city. It's great to be here. I do have to try and stay away from Boylston Street, though, because the bike lanes there are a little ridiculous in Boylston Street.
I think we need more. We don't have enough bike lanes.
Oh, they're coming. Don't worry about it, Greg. They're coming.
Well, we've missed you around here. A lot has changed since you left, but that's the way it goes. That's the way life goes.
Yeah, one thing that really, it's changed, but it hasn't. There was I don't know if Greg talked about this. There was this prominent magazine in Boston that put out a list of the top 100. And I think I was like 97 or something like that in the list. I think the list was upside down, but next to me was Greg Hill. So I thought, holy Jesus,
it was actually,
not only have I fallen to 97, I've fallen next to him.
I think you were 143rd and I was 145th, which means that we're both irrelevant.
Yeah, whatever it was. It was down. But like I said to you, I think the list was upside down. I think they miscalculated something around there.
Well, I know you're in town to talk about the Four Nations tournament, and Wiggy had a lead yesterday about all-star games in general in sports. And what the genesis for this was it the league or the players talking about, hey, we want to do something different? How did it develop?
Well, it really came from the players wanting to play in international competition, best on best, representing their country. When I went to work for the Player Association, one of the biggest things the players asked me to do was get them back in the Olympics. They hadn't played in the Olympics in a couple Olympics. So we started a negotiation with the league to get NHL players back in the Olympics. Then we had a conversation about the World Cup of Hockey, which is a tournament that has been sporadic over time, kind of like the World Baseball Classic, one of those, or FIFA, the World Cup in soccer, but it hasn't been consistent. So we began those conversations, and what we decided we're able to get an agreement for the Olympics, so we have NHL players playing in the 2026 and the 2030 Olympic Games. We're working on right now having a consistent schedule every other year for a World Cup of Hockey, and then the Four Nations came out of that because we didn't have enough time to do a full World Cup of Hockey. So what fans can expect is hopefully every 2 years, international hockey, best on best players in the world playing for their country every 2 years for the next almost decade.
And I understand that David Pastrnak is among those who are upset that it's only Four Nations. Is that correct?
Yeah, Pasta was upset. I talked to him a couple times, and he understood ultimately that we couldn't get a full tournament this time. But obviously, Pasta will be playing in the Olympics, and then when we move forward, if we get to an agreement with the World Cup, Czech will be in that conversation as well, in that competition as well.
So Marty, when you open it up, will it be, teams like, Russia? I know the Czech Republic, and there's got to be a lot of other, countries out there that have talented hockey players. So is this something that is going to open up for all those countries?
Yeah, all the countries. Germany, obviously, we watch Swiss potentially. The Russian players, I'd love to see them. Everybody wants to see them in the best on best competition. But right now, that's a difficult one because of politics. There are countries that might not play in an international tournament if Russia's playing. So we're going to see what happens here with the Olympics, whether they're in and out of the Olympics in 2026, and then we have to make decisions based on that. But that's basically what it is. It's all the top countries, the best players. And when you think about the NHL for hockey, a third of our players come from Europe. So we have a huge footprint in Europe, where we have NHL players from Europe, and most European countries have hockey federation. So hockey is the biggest sport over there.
Marty, I know that the CBA will expire a year from September, and you've said that negotiations are expected to start after the Four Nations. And while things are respectful and chummy right now, how do you make sure that it stays that way on both sides and that things stay respectful and happy?
I mean, the secret to that is just conversations. I mean, you see a lot of, you guys have reported a lot of, labor disputes. Generally what happens in those is one side shuts down, one side stops talking to the other side. So you just have to continue that conversation going forward. So, myself and Commissioner Bettman are work closely together on a lot of different things. And it's just, if there's a disagreement, we just have to continue to walk through that. It's when the shutting down and the leaking to the press starts to throw things off a bit.
You did get a significant increase when it comes to salary cap. Am I right about that?
Yeah, the biggest. Well, it's one of the biggest increases. Yeah, it was a good one. And what we did was we basically $7.5 million for next year, which means that teams can go out and obviously sign players and pay more for players. We did a 3-year run kind of with it, the following 2 seasons as well. Those numbers could change. They could go up, maybe go down, but more likely go up. So players are, I think, wouldn't say excited, but players are pleased with the direction that we're going.
Four Nations begins on February 12th, and then in Montreal, I think, and then the championship game is here at TD Garden, correct?
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty awesome. I mean, when you think about hockey fans that are listening, if you're my age, you remember the Russian teams coming into the Garden, and you remember some of the tournaments they had in '97 with World Cup of Hockey. I think it was called a different name at that point, the tournament. But it's exciting for fans. I think you're going to have people from all over the world coming to Boston and Montreal, quite honestly. And it's going to be great hockey. You have 3 Bruins playing on 3 of the 4 teams. You have lots of excitement here. Lots of players that Connor McDavid, who's never played for his country before at this level. Probably one of the greatest hockey players ever is playing. Austin Matthews for the United States. So there's a lot of excitement here.
Are there talks, because it seems like a pretty good idea, but replacing the All-Star game, usually, you went one specific place, people could go there, they could visit, they could enjoy the week. Are there talks about when you move forward with this Four Nations tournament to have it in one location? And maybe even add a skills challenge, where the nations compete against each other, where people can enjoy a weekend, whatever specific city that you decide to have that Four Nations in.
There hasn't been any formal conversations in the NHL, but yourself, these leagues are always changing that all-star / competition weekend for the fans. So this is replacing the All-Star game this year. The Four Nations. Next year, when we have the Olympics in Milan, they're going to have the All-Star game next year. So I think that if you do this right and you schedule it correctly, there's an opportunity here to do something creative. I mean, you have players that are going to play for their countries in Four Nations, but you're going to have other players in the league that quite aren't going to play for their countries. So you could do something with skills with those players. You could have these players playing in the game. There's a lot. Somebody who's creative can think of a lot of ways to do stuff. I mean, I watched the football one this weekend. It's interesting. They're trying to get people to watch it, and some people will watch it. Some people have no desire to watch other than a real football game.
Marty, I'm curious, in your time as mayor, and obviously you're still pretty well connected here, were there attempts by the Celtics and Wick and the ownership group to build a standalone arena? And how difficult is the task of whoever buys the Celtics to begin that process of finding a location and a place to build their own building if that's what they want?
They never approached me when I was the mayor, but it's complicated. I mean, I was talking to Bob Kraft to build a soccer stadium in Boston. I wanted to put it down by Whitehead Circle. The city council, ironically, some are different positions today, pushed back on me. And now that land that I was going to put a soccer stadium on is used for MBTA layover tracks down on Frontage Road, where before it was going to be economic development building. So It's really hard. It's really hard to build anything in Boston, particularly around a stadium size, not a building, a stadium, because there's traffic considerations and things like that. But I think that, as you move forward here, we'll see what happens with the ownership of the Celtics. I think it's going to be talking to the community and finding the right place to put it too.
You brought up Bob Kraft. Josh Kraft will announce today his candidacy for mayor. Will you be endorsing a candidate?
I knew this question was coming. I'm just I'm looking forward to. I want to see what happens today. I know Josh is announcing his candidacy today, and the mayor will announce her re-election at some point. And I'm going to sit back and watch what's going on here for a little bit.
It's a political answer.
It's actually not what I would expect. That's a very interesting answer.
I would ask Greg, is there one thing in Boston that works better now than it did when Marty was mayor? One thing. Everything has gone to hell.
Well, the good thing is, though, I was thinking when you were talking about one city hosting the Four Nations, we could set up rinks in all of the empty office buildings in the city, Marty.
Oh, man. Yeah, I hope. I hope people come back to work here. I should have come in this morning. I don't know why I didn't come in the studio this morning.
I guess I could save you, Marty. When you look at this season, is there anything potentially special that you're going to have set up for Alex Ovechkin? He's 17 goals away from potentially passing Wayne Gretzky as the all-time goal scorer. Is there anything that the NHLPA is looking to do, the NHL looking to do, if that's something that possibly happens, or is it, something that you guys are talking about?
No, there'll be something done here. It's an amazing accomplishment. If assuming Ovechkin gets there. Hockey's funny, as you know. Sports is funny. People don't want to talk about anything until it happens. So we've just been kind of watching Ovi move along here. He got hurt, missed a bunch of games, and he's on a tear here. So we'll see what happens as far as the rest of the season. If it's not this season, potentially early next season. But there'll be all kinds of different acknowledgments when it happens.
What's the one thing you took from the White House and you didn't tell anybody?
What can I say?
Curtis, don't worry about it. Elon Musk and Doge have a report coming out on it soon.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Joe was almost too sharp.
That was a good question. What did you take from the White House? You can't tell anybody, and I'm on radio this morning, so let me think about that.
Well,
I guarantee you something.
It must be, though, growing up here and being a hockey fan, it must be a cool job, getting to deal with all those guys all the time. Must be a really cool job.
No, it is. It's very different. It's kind of like, I can't believe that this is my job, especially, coming from what I've done. Been in politics for 25 years, state rep, mayor, labor secretary, and now I represent the NHLPA Players Association. It's great. What's funny is no matter where you go, I thought this when I was labor secretary, wherever I went, there was always a Boston connection. And the same thing in this job, whether it's a general manager of a team, a coach of a team, a player in a team, it's such a great Boston connection. But it's a great job. You get to represent NHL players. These guys are humble. They're just really good group of people. And they're not asking for a lot. They're not looking for a lot. They go out and play their game. It's a tough game, and they give back to the community, which is great. I love seeing that happen. I can be part of that, and then it's great to do that. And then you get this competition, the Four Nations, where you're playing for your country, and they go back to being little kids again. Some of these guys are so excited about it. They're giddy about the fact they're playing for their country, and that means an awful lot to them, and it means a lot to a lot of people that watch this. So it's pretty awesome to do that. To be in this role and to be able to, be in the city that I grew up in and be part of this, what's happening here this week, in 2 weeks, it's great.
What do you think is more likely in the future? You run for governor or Charlie Baker runs for president?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't think maybe none of them might happen. I don't know. I've talked to the governor a bunch of times. We reminisce a lot when I talk to him. We go back and forth about when we were the good old days. We get caught up in that sometimes because I still walk into the airport and people look at me and go, "Charlie, thank you very much, guys. Great job." And then he gets Walsh all the time, and so.
All right. Well, tickets. Go ahead. What?
No, I was just going to say one thing about Charlie Baker, myself. The thing that we had that politics needs is that respect for each other. And that's not there today in Washington and a little bit around in cities like Boston. People got to get that back, respecting one another.
Yeah. You guys found a way to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so tickets are available. And the tournament kicks off on February 12th, and then you got the championship game here at the Garden. And so how do we get tickets for Four Nations?
You can go on the NHL website, Ticketmaster, and you can get the tickets. And then the Garden has them. It's going to be an awesome opportunity here. In the second half of the tournament, it's going to be in the TD Garden. So it's going to be an awesome opportunity.
All right. One of our listeners is saying we haven't mentioned the Four Nations. It's Canada, the United States,
Finland, and Sweden, I believe,
Sweden.
Right? Sweden.
Yes.
Yeah. Sweden, yeah.
All right.
Oh.
All right, Mayor Walsh, Mr. Executive Director, it is always great to hear your voice. And as Curtis said, we miss you around here. So we're...
Thanks, brother. Thank you, guys and ladies. And next time I come by, I'll come in.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that about you.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, you were one politician who showed up and went on and pled your case,
right.
And virtually nobody else does that. So I give you a ton of credit for that.
Thank you, Greg.
All right.
And if you happen to get your hands on a signed OV jersey.
Okay.
And you want a jersey, Wiki?
Yeah, if you can get
You
your
are
hands on an
unbelievable.
Ovechkin jersey.
I got to tell you, they have some very nice NHLPA gear.
Yeah.
If you've seen the merch, it's
Yeah.
very nice.
The NHL Players Association, they take care of their current players and their former players. I've talked to a lot of former NHL guys, and that's the biggest thing is how do you take care of the guys once they're done with the sport?
Yeah.
Good job with that.
All right, Marty, thank you.
Thank you, guys.